It's the dead of winter in the Arctic Circle. A remote research station somewhere on the ice has gone dark. You're a technician who's been sent to make contact and fix whatever problem they're having. But when you arrive, something's wrong. The power to most of the site is dead. Something blew a huge, jagged hole through the wall of the main building. Inside, there are signs of habitation from as little as a few days ago. Laptops are still plugged in on desks. Fresh soda cans are sitting in the trash. But the people are all gone. The only living thing you run into as you trek down the silent corridors is a strange, festering black mold growing all over the floors and walls. When you get very close to it, it almost sounds like it's whispering to you. That's the setup of Black Snow, a horror mod for Half-Life 2 published in 2012. I don't remember exactly when I first heard about this mod, but it was definitely closer to then than now. For a long time, I was too scared to play horror games myself. I usually watched them over YouTubers' shoulders if I saw them at all. That first changed when I played Outlast years later, and now I play them all the time. But for whatever reason, I never came back to this one before now. I'm glad I did, though. Black Snow is presented as found footage taken from the body cam of a technician named John Matsuda. It's January 2007, and he's part of a repair team that's been dispatched to the Amaluk Research Station, located in the Greenland ice sheet.
Solid copy. Control.
Supposedly, the station's comms equipment is broken. The first chapter starts with a montage of scenes from their arrival. Matsuda is sitting in a snow truck with the other techs. One of them asks why they have to wear gas masks if this is just a tech issue. It's a good question. The screen cuts to static and the footage skips to them in the station garage. Nobody's there to greet them. Another skip. One of them screams while something that can't be seen in the dark drags them down a hallway. The footage cuts to Matsuda out of breath, stumbling into a supply closet and collapsing. For a second, a distorted image interrupts the body cam feed. 8 blank faces stare from the dark. Matsuda blacks out. When he wakes up, he's trapped underneath a big metal stepladder. It goes flying across the room comically when you push it off. Black Snow uses the same Havoc physics engine as Half-Life and other Source games. Even though being able to pick up and drag crates and buckets and other stuff doesn't usually affect the gameplay much, it adds a tangible quality to a horror game like this that's not quite there in a completely static environment. And it's fun. I wasted a minute trying to find boxes and paint cans so I could build a tower in the closet before I remembered what I was supposed to be doing. In a cabinet nearby, you can find a jar of thermite. As a chemistry textbook in the next room tells you, thermite is a metal powder that produces intense heat when it's burned. Most games like this would distill a readable textbook down to a couple lines on screen that give you the gist, but Black Snow is unique. It uses a complete, fleshed-out asset for basically all the collectibles scattered around the station. That includes websites, flyers, HR forms, machine safety guides. Even if only a small part of a doc is relevant to whatever Matsuda is doing, you can usually read the whole thing if you want to. Most of the writing in the textbook is pulled from Wikipedia. One sentence even has a citation needed tag after it. But still, not every horror game gets to say it teaches you real chemistry, right? The thermite can melt through the locked door in the room outside. Beyond it is a hangar filled with blinking orange computer terminals, server blocks, and a rat's nest of cabling. A lone chair in the middle of the room has an orange llama symbol on the back. You find out later this is the logo of Amaluk Station. Someone stuck an axe in one of the server blocks. You get shocked if you try to pull it out.
Welcome, I am Jack.
One of the computer terminals has an interface you can use to talk to Jack, the AI that governs the research station. Something's wrong with it. Jack claims the facility is on lockdown, but it can't or won't tell you why. It says it doesn't have sufficient computing power to answer that question, but it has no issue answering all your other questions.
By the Institute of Proto-Science Research and CHM Polar Services. It currently
It's telling the truth about the lockdown, though. When you approach the door leading outside, an automated message about a contamination protocol plays.
The ice is moving.
Jack was kind of jarring to listen to, for reasons the devs probably didn't intend.
In support of the Greenland.
It sounds a lot closer to Microsoft SAM or one of the TTS programs from that era than the kind of synthetic voice you'd hear today.
The research building and a state-of-the-art commodity facility.
It's weird to think about how only 15 years ago this was about as realistic as they got.
216 meters.
After Jack lifts the lockdown for you, you exit the building into the night air. The first thing you can see is a big, round, white light in the sky. I thought it was the moon. Turns out it's just a light pole. There are other buildings close by, visible in between thick clouds of rolling snow. If you stay exposed too long, hypothermia sets in and starts slowly chewing down your health. You can only recover by finding electric space heaters scattered around the map. The game teaches you early on not to spend time in the open without knowing exactly where you're going. The next building is empty except for some grungy old machinery. There's a faint static buzz coming from a pile of crates in the corner. Behind them is a body slumped against the wall. It's unnaturally pale. Its head is angled downwards so you can't really see its face. If you look closely at the model, its fingertips are bent into sharp edges that make it look like it has claws. When you examine it, Matsuda notes that it smells sour. The static is coming from a radio next to it. The central building of the research campus is locked, but you find a grappling hook that lets you hoist yourself in through a big hole blown in the wall. Inside is a communal work area. There's a broken coffee table on the carpet next to a row of cubicles filled with desks and computers. The potted plant in the corner is dead. On a desk next to it is a comic book titled Raw Justice. There's a corkboard on the left-hand wall with a bunch of research detritus pinned to it. Topographical charts of Greenland, post-it notes with handwritten differential equations on them, a poster with the logo for the Proto-Science Research Institute, the station's mysterious owner, with the words, "The Future," written below it. An impact font meme of Jack Nicholson's face from the end of The Shining captioned, "Don't work too hard." It's definitely 2007. The right-hand door leads to a storage area full of filing cabinets. There are bullet casings and a dark blood stain on the carpet. There's another hole in the wall too, but this one leads to what looks like someone's private bunk. It doesn't take long to find the owner. She's face down on the bed wearing a set of dingy pajamas. Her bedside lamp is still on. There's a packed suitcase lying on the floor. Beneath the bed is a mat of something black and shiny. It pulsates slowly, in and out, like it's breathing. If you stand close and turn the volume up, you can hear a whispering sound emanating from it. If you get too close, it screeches and attacks you. To me, it sounds like a seagull. The dead woman is a researcher named Elizabeth Sillam. Her laptop is on her desk next to an access key card that'll come in handy later. The system language is set to Danish. She's got an email client open to a message from 5 days ago. Someone named Joe Russell asks if she knows anything about the weird electronic interference that people have been reporting around the station lately. On her desktop is a text file titled Last One. It reads, "Don't know what is going on anymore. 1 minute feels so long. I think I'm the last one. Shouldn't have eaten those opened rations. Not feeling so well. I think I'm going to lie down." The only door out of Elizabeth's room is padlocked, so you need to backtrack. Outside the common room, the lights are mostly dead. The few that are still working are broken and flicker on and off intermittently. If you try to explore in the dark, something attacks from the shadows with an inhuman scream. It does a lot more damage than the black growth under the bed. It can kill you in a few hits. If it has a body, you can't see it, but it leaves a trail of black smoke or vapor behind it when it moves. The only way to stay safe is to stay in the light. At the end of the hallway is a set of double doors leading back outside. Before you exit, you can catch a glimpse of a silhouette standing behind a plant on the other side of a counter. It disappears after a second. It's completely black except for its face, which is white and patchy. Back outside in the snow, there's a dead husky lying on the doorstep of another building. The sign reads Kennels. Inside are 2 floor-to-ceiling wire mesh cages. In the first are more dead dogs. Their corpses are covered in pale, lumpy blisters, like they were diseased before they died. If you look closely at their textures, you can see they were bleeding from the eyes. One's head has been severed, and another one is speared to the wall with a harpoon. In the next cage is a human body with another husky curled up next to it. Matsuda reflects that the kennel master and his dog spent their last moments together. The kennels are connected to the station garage where you first arrived. The power is completely out, and there's something crawling around in the dark. You can grab a flare from next to the corpse to light the place up a little, but even if you carry it inside, this thing can still hurt you. After you escape through a vent, you end up in a control room with a circuit breaker on the wall. When the lights are back on, there's no sign of anyone in the room with you. But there is something else. The Snowcat, the heavy snow vehicle you arrived in, is still there. If you can get it working, there might be a way out. On the control room desk are a blowtorch, a welding mask, and an open laptop. In a text file titled Observation Notes, a researcher named Alex Suderth reports that he's managed to evade a virulent fungus that's infested the station. He's writing this 3 days before Matsuda's team arrived on site. He calls the fungus Black Snow. His notes are the first time we get any direct insight into what's going on at Amaluk. Alex has been observing this outbreak for a while and collecting data, as he puts it. He's learned that the mold is very resilient. It can survive extreme temperatures and bore holes through solid materials, making hazmat suits ineffective. It seems to avoid light, though. It can grow on any surface, even on living tissue. When it infects a person, they usually suffer organ failure within a few days. Alex claims there's no known cure, but humidifiers can slow the progress of the disease, and vinegar applied to the skin offers some protection. Not enough protection, judging by the sour smell on the first body you found. Most of this doc is just Alex cataloging the things he knows for sure, but towards the end he gets more into speculation. Did this mold originate in the permafrost and escape when it melted? That's his working theory. Is it intelligent in some way? He seems to think so. He also suggests something that even he admits sounds completely absurd. He can't prove it, but he suspects that the mold can tamper with the mind of an infected person in a way a normal fungal infection can't. He thinks that after the mold kills someone, some part of their brain persists inside the spores that are up from their body to spread the infestation. He doesn't explain what he saw that makes him think this, but we can get a clue from those faces that flash on the camera feed at the beginning of the game. I think those are the faces of the victims. A separate file on the laptop details Alex's plan to prep a Snowcat so he can drive to one of Amaluk's sister stations. He's hopeful that when he gets there he can use what he's learned to find a way to eradicate the fungus. He's still treating this like a science problem. Matsuda's next goal is to collect the supplies Alex said would be necessary. Fuel, an ignition key, and a map to navigate the ice. The rest of the notes on the laptop are locked in an encrypted folder named Heracles, the Greek name for Hercules. You can borrow Alex's blowtorch from his desk and thaw a frozen trapdoor leading to the kennel's basement. In the corner is a stack of rusty yellow barrels with a biohazard symbol painted on them. Matsuda also finds the body of one of his team members down here, Eric. As soon as he approaches it, he starts coughing violently. His vision goes gray and your health starts draining. When you try to climb back out, something slams the hatch door shut in your face. When you get it back open and get out, the room is empty. The blowtorch can be used to light barrels of garbage that are strewn around the snow outside. They only burn for a minute or so, but they let you regain some heat and health. One of these barrels has a metal plate inside with an engraving on it. Nymphs frolic, A forlorn night comes. In the sanctuary of time they reside. Behind the knowledge lies the truth. Your next stop is the main generator building. The lower part of this building is unlit except for 3 or 4 flares that were thrown recently enough to still be burning. Inside a small vent, a human body is stuffed behind a grate. The words "I forgive you" are scratched on the wall next to it. There are a couple cans of biodiesel fuel in the supply closet, enough for the generator and the snowcat. But when you try to refire the generator, the flares are all suddenly snuffed out at once.
Minor lacerations detected.
Black smoke comes shrieking out of the dark. You barely have time to flip the switch and turn the lights back on before it kills you.
Critical. See.
Once the power is back on, the main building is a lot safer to navigate. When you get back to the reception area, a phone is ringing. You can pick it up, but nobody's on the other end. It's not clear whether or not this is a hallucination. There's a printed form to request an employee transfer lying on a desk in this room. It's filled out by someone named Junaid. Next to reception is the staff locker room. Kevin Thorne's locker has a new employee welcome flyer inside. In another locker belonging to Lars Osterholm, a handwritten note in Swedish reads, "Karina, Daddy has said I won't be able to keep my promise. I love you." Lisbeth's access key card can open up her locker. Inside, a painting of an owl stares back at you. A reverse image searched this, but it seems to just be a piece of stock art. Back in Lisbeth's room, the blowtorch melts the padlock on the door. The hallway outside leads to the other staff bunks. Some of them are unlocked. Adam Sanders' room is dark except for a body bag with a biohazard symbol stamped on it lying on the bed. Matsuda refuses to open it. It's only visible by the light of a TV that's blaring gray static. Mackenzie Hart's room has an upturned shelf and a single chair weirdly placed in the center. But nothing else unusual. Clarice Swinton's room has the most personality. Her walls are hung with colored pencil drawings. Judging by the easel in the corner, she made them herself. Most of the drawings are of sunflowers. There's also a POV image of someone looking down at a dark hole in the ground. Some of the pictures are just solid colors: red, black, yellow. There's a picture of the exterior of Amaluk Station. A dark silhouette sitting on a bench beneath the words, "I'm still afraid." Another dark silhouette standing on a green hill covered in yellow dots. It looks like there's some kind of black smoke or mist trailing off it. Matsuda thinks that the drawings are unnerving to look at. He remembers that Van Gogh was obsessed with sunflowers as well. Clarice's laptop wallpaper is a field of yellow daisies. I think they're supposed to be sunflowers. She's got an email open from Junaid, the guy who filled out a form to get transferred out of Amaluk. He's inviting her to come over and watch Miami Vice with him. Besides that, she's got a picture of a college professor giving a lecture about string theory and a note titled Preliminary Scans. Preliminary Scans is a research log written 9 days before Matsuda's arrival. As we find out, part of this station's work involved regularly drilling into the ice sheet to extract samples, a process called ice coring. Sample 2807 contains something unusual, an organic foreign object. A radiographic scan shows a small spiral shape less than a centimeter thick. It looks sort of like a seashell. Clarice thinks it might be a fossil. Lab tests date the object back to 120 BC. That sounds pretty old until you remember that the deeper ice in Greenland originates before 100,000 BC. What's weirder is that there's a graph included in this document that shows Ice Core 2807 contains human-made gases called chlorofluorocarbons, which didn't exist in the atmosphere before 1920. So it's a 2,000-year-old organic object somehow trapped in ice that's less than 100 years old. If it were placed in the ice through natural accretion, you'd expect it to have been found much deeper, So either it was only buried a lot more recently than 120 BC, or it somehow rose up through thousands of years' worth of ice on its own. The log ends abruptly with the line, "Sunflowers. He waits in the field." When you close the file, the desktop background changes. A small black humanoid shape is visible at the edge of the field of daisies, silhouetted against the sky. If you open any other file and check again, it's gone. Junaid's room is next door. He's got a 2006 issue of Time magazine on his desk. It's focused on the station's owner, IPR. There's a picture of the actress Lena Headey on the cover, though it seems like she's supposed to be a stand-in for a fictional character. Junaid's laptop has a picture of Clarice and the PDF of the employee transfer form on it, along with an unfinished breakup letter. He writes that his family wouldn't accept their relationship, though he doesn't go into detail. He only planned to send it to her after the transfer went through. Halfway down the corridor, the lights fizzle out. A vent snaps open and the spores come hissing out. It feels like they're everywhere. You have to hide until the power comes back on. In the station gym, there's a big cement brick lying on the ground by the treadmills. Someone embedded the key to the snowcat inside. The words "can't leave" are written on it. Looking at the raw VTF image files for the two decals, it's hard to tell if the handwriting on the brick is the same as the "I forgive you" message in the generator room. The color is. There's a door around the corner labeled "Immersion Cell." Behind it is a dark tunnel that seems to be carved out of actual stone. You follow it a few feet and emerge into a wide open field under a cloudy summer sky. This place can't possibly exist inside the station. A garden gate blocks you from going forward, but beyond are rows of sunflowers and a small green hill with a lone tree on it. There's a black figure standing at the top, facing away from you. It's the scene from Clarice's drawing. There's only one sunflower on your side of the gate. Behind it is a statue of a woman holding a small bird. Her head is missing. When you touch the flower, your vision fades to white. You're suddenly in a tiny box with cold neon white walls. This is what the immersion cell actually looks like. It's a self-contained room where staff can experience VR simulations. This could be a reference to a great movie called Sunshine, released in 2007, the same year Black Snow is set. A group of astronauts on a mission to reignite the dying sun have a room like this on their ship, the Icarus. It lets them experience a simulated version of Earth so they can keep well adjusted in space. But the hill and the field of sunflowers aren't virtual reality. The immersion cell isn't functioning. Matsuda was having some kind of vivid hallucination. Clarice must have seen the same thing at some point. In the corner, a woman's corpse is lying in a pool of dried blood. A rusty chisel is stuck in the wall next to her. Matsuda thinks it looks like a suicide. The next hallway has a few more crew bunks. One has a TV lying on its side, displaying a test pattern. The name on the door says it has 3 residents. One of them is the real-life theoretical physicist Michio Kaku. Part of the room is blocked off by some kind of black membrane. Another room belonging to an Artem Gilev has a large painting on the wall. It's easier to see if you disable the game lighting. It shows a man on horseback wearing a suit of armor, riding through a forest filled with naked women. This is a real painting from the Austrian artist Richard Motsch called The Knight's Dream. It depicts a sleeping knight dreaming that he's in a forest filled with nymphs, nature spirits. The bookshelf in Gilev's room can be tipped over. Behind it is a hole leading into a group study room. It's big enough to look through, but you can't climb in. The door at the end of the hall belongs to Kevin Thorne, the new employee. It won't open. A vent in the men's bathroom provides an alternate way in. Kevin's mold-rotted body is on the floor next to a bucket of wood planks and construction tools. Like most of the other corpses we've seen so far, the position he's in makes it hard to see his face. His door is nailed shut with wood planks, but it clearly wasn't enough. His laptop screen glows red ominously in the corner. Unlike the other crew computers, we can't get into it. It's locked by a security program called Theseus. You can take his hammer and the chisel back to the gym to chip the ignition key out of the cement, putting you one step closer to escaping. After this, it's not totally clear where to go, but if you wander around, you'll eventually notice that the rolling metal shutter leading to the kitchen is now inexplicably open. It slams closed behind you as soon as you crawl inside, trapping you. It's dark, and there are colonies of black mold growing everywhere. It's hard not to get bitten a few times, even if you use a flare to light the way. In the cafeteria, 2 feet wearing dirty socks stick out from under a bloodstained blanket. Matsuda hopes it was peaceful. Down another dark corridor is a server room. The central computer shows someone ran a command that replaces all the bytes on the main hard drive with random values, effectively scrubbing the station servers. When you turn around, there's a blurry face peering at you from behind the glass door for a second. But when you open it, there's no one there. In a room nearby full of monitors rolling black and white CCTV footage, someone's written, "Alex is wrong" in blood on the wall. There are rolls of X-ray film hidden around this part of the map. These can be tough to collect since the mold cloud is active here and it's more aggressive in the low light. At one point it almost gets you, but you can duck under a metal shutter just in time. On the other side, you can hear it banging on the metal and snarling. You get to see the X-rays a little later. They all show different body parts. A splayed hand, lungs in a rib cage, someone's intestines with some kind of red growth developing inside them. A human skull. Each one has a number written in the corner. You have to go through the ice core storage room to collect one of them. This must be where the outbreak started. It's choked with mold, and there's a huge pendulous black mass hanging from the ceiling. Matsuda starts coughing violently when he exits. In a separate room, there's a lit wall with a row of 5 words or phrases written in black pen on it. The X-rays are meant to map to these labels. The label for the intestines is Conqueror Worm. The human hand is Accusing. A dog's skull is Companion. The lungs are Second Wind. And finally, the skull is Enlightenment. Maybe these are supposed to represent stages of the infection? When the X-rays are in the right order, the numbers on them give a 5-digit code to the keypad that's gating the station observation deck. As soon as you start climbing the stairs, the whole building starts shaking. The mold descends on you again, but it stops at the light in the doorway. The deck itself is eerily empty. Outside the windows, the whole station is sprawled out in the snow below you. The navigational map you need is pinned to the wall. When you pull it down, there's a final message written underneath. "I'm sorry." Above the words is a bundle of explosives. The first blast throws you across the room and out the window. The second one detonates the entire deck. Matsuda crashes through the ceiling of another building and ends up lying on his back in a pile of debris. He doesn't get up again. In his last moments, the northern lights are visible twinkling in the sky above. The 8 blank faces in the dark interrupt the camera feed one last time. The timestamp on the last frame reads 9 Jan 07, January 9th, 2007. The log began on January 15th. Black Snow is one of those horror games where the actual monster is almost ancillary. The real monster is the environment. Outside, it's freezing cold and you're only as safe as your nearest heat source. You have to move strategically between heaters and burning barrels to stay alive. Inside, you do the same kind of rationing with light sources like unreliable lamps and flares. By the time you see the creature, it's already too late, so you have to be careful to keep out of the dark in the first place. The station remains the main threat even close to the end, when your biggest obstacle is no longer the elements or the entity, it's the researchers. You never talk to one directly, you never confront one, but you feel their influence through the hazards they put in your way. An access code hidden behind a strange puzzle, hastily boarded up doors you have to pry open, sabotaged machinery, a key dropped in cement, a bomb rigged to the map that you needed to escape. So what happened at Amaluk Station in the winter of 2007? Clearly the researchers dug up something they shouldn't have. Something small, organic, and inexplicably much younger than the ice surrounding it. Clarice calls it a seed. Whatever it is, only a few days after it's brought into the building, a viral mold infestation breaks out. It's never made clear what the real nature of this black snow is. Where and when it originated and whether it developed naturally or was somehow engineered are all left up in the air. All we can go on is what we see in the game. We know it's fast. Only 9 days after being retrieved, it's already metastasized throughout the entire station. By the time your team got on site, there was probably no one left to save. We know it's deadly. Exposure causes death within days, and judging by how brutally the infected dogs in the kennels had to be put down, it might also have some impact on the behavior of the infected. We know it has some influence on electromagnetic fields. An email 5 days prior to Matsuda's arrival mentions electronic interference being detected all over the site. The first victim's body is lying next to a radio blaring static, and later on a body bag is found next to a TV, also broadcasting static. As the player, you only get to witness Matsuda's hallucinations, the figure in the desktop background, the faces of the dead researchers, because something spliced footage of them into his body cam feed. Why was this thing brought on site in the first place? Clarice's log suggests it was discovered by chance in a random piece of ice, one of many samples taken at Amaluk. Did the researchers just do what scientists do and get curious, or did some of them understand what they'd found? Well, someone higher up in the chain must have known something more than they let on. Why else would Matsuda's team, which is basically tech support, be issued gas masks and body armor? As for what the researchers knew, the employee onboarding flyer in Kevin Thorne's locker indicates he's new to the station. He's also one of the few staff members who seems to have figured out what was happening early enough to take real precautions against the outbreak. He's got a whole set of construction tools in his room to barricade himself inside, though in the end they didn't do much good against a predator that can travel through vents. Kevin's laptop is also unusual in that it's locked. We can freely browse research logs, emails, even private photos on the other researchers' devices, but his data is hidden behind a program called Theseus with a bull's head icon. Theseus is the Greek hero who navigated a maze that was built to contain something deadly and inhuman. The only other time we're denied access to data is on Alex's computer. He has a password-locked folder named Heracles, after another Greek hero who died after being poisoned by the blood of a hydra. It contains files with names like Inoculation Chart, BCO-18 Test, Entropic Reactions. What were the two of them studying that needed this extra layer of security? I think it's possible that they were the first people that IPR assigned to research the black mold before the situation became untenable. It's not clear what that research entailed or what the ultimate goal was, but we never get an explanation for those yellow barrels marked with the biohazard symbol that are hidden beneath the kennels and the generator plant. Alex left his final logs, the ones which explain the nature of the mold and list the tools needed to prep the snowcat and escape, outside that password-locked folder. That may have been carelessness under pressure, or it might have been a deliberate attempt to leave clues to help other survivors in case he didn't make it. His escape plan calls for collecting fuel, the snowcat ignition key, and a map. By the time Matsuda gets to those items, there are signs of sabotage around all of them. The biodiesel cans are found in a basement where a dead body is stuffed in a vent. "I forgive you" is written on the wall nearby. The key is embedded in a cement brick with the words "can't leave" on the side. The map is rigged to explode and the bomb has "I'm sorry" scrawled underneath. Someone who read Alex's plan systematically took it apart. Someone decided they didn't want him or anyone else leaving the station. I think they realized that the infection was too dangerous to risk spreading. That puts "can't leave" and "I'm sorry" in context. The saboteur is matter-of-factly addressing what they know are innocent people that they're condemning to die. "I forgive you" is more ambiguous, though. Those words are written next to a body stuffed behind a grate in a sealed vent. maybe to minimize the risk of anyone stumbling onto it and becoming infected. Did the dead man come looking for the biodiesel and find the killer instead? And if so, is the message intended for him as some kind of absolution? Or is it intended for whoever finds him? I'm not sure. Those 3 messages are all written in black ink. The last handwritten message we see is written in blood. Alex is wrong. Who wrote this and what they meant is even less clear. Is this the killer speaking or someone else? And what part is Alex wrong about? His plan to escape and find the other stations, or his theory about the black snow, which we read in his laptop? I think it's both. Throughout the game, there are hints that Alex's half-baked idea about the mold having some ability to enter and even absorb the minds of its victims isn't as absurd as he thinks it is. But at the same time, he doesn't seem to have the full picture. Clarice and Matsuda both have visions of the same dark figure on a hill overlooking a field of sunflowers. Clarice's notes on the spiral found in the ice end with, "Sunflowers. He waits in the field." Not it waits, he waits. One of the X-ray films that someone hid the observation tower key code in is labeled Conqueror Worm. That's an allusion to an Edgar Allan Poe poem. That poem is usually taken to be about death, how it's final, total, inescapable. So whoever chose that label was making some kind of statement. But the evidence in the game doesn't agree with them. Almost every mold-eaten corpse we find is presented so that its face is obscured. Elizabeth and Kevin are face down, the guy next to the radio has his head drooping, Adam is inside a body bag. The anonymous woman who committed suicide is slumped over. But Matsuda sees those faces flash in front of him twice during the game. So if they are the victims, then some part of them did survive death. These faces appear once at the end as he's dying, and once at the very beginning. That also means he was probably infected from the start. Whatever the black snow and the artifact they dug up from the ice really are, they're spreading something worse than a terrestrial disease. And if it's already in the minds of the infected, then Alex can't leave. No one can. There are a few parts I'm not sure about. For one thing, someone wiped the station servers, and even went so far as assaulting the server stacks in the first building you come across with an axe. Who? Were they trying to scrub information about the mold or the outbreak? And if so, were they doing it because they thought the data was too dangerous to risk leaking, or because they were involved somehow and wanted to cover their tracks? Also, you find this engraved metal plate lying in a barrel that a player could easily skip over in the snow, far away from any of the objectives. It's describing a painting that you can barely see in the dark of a random researcher's room halfway across the map. Night's Dream depicts a sleeping man dreaming of visiting an idyllic forest filled with nymphs. Interestingly, maybe the most pleasant thing we get to see during the game is also the one thing we know isn't real. The sunflower field. That hallucination is the one reprieve you get from the cold, grey reality of trudging through the station. The sun is shining, the light is poking through clouds drifting along lazily in the sky. Crickets are chirping. There's even a melody humming in the background. There's no cold or monsters or darkness. Is this field a representation of where the infected end up after the mold runs its course? Clarice stated that the man in the field was waiting. Was he waiting for them to join him here? Relating to that, there's a piece that I think Alex missed. The writing on the plate mentions a forlorn knight coming to the Sanctuary of Time. Throughout the events of Black Snow, there are signs that time is behaving strangely. Most of Greenland doesn't see direct sunlight in January, but we see the sun prominently at the start of the footage. Lisbeth, the dead woman whose room we find first, wrote that even 1 minute feels like so long after she gets sick. The spiral artifact that arrived on site just before the infection started is dated at about 2,000 years old, but somehow found encased in ice that's much younger. The closing timestamp on Matsuda's body cam reads 9 Jan 07, January 9th, 2007. That would be 6 days before his team even arrived at the station. So taken at face value, the footage ends before it starts. Even though nearly everyone is dead by the time you explore Amaluk Station, Black Snow is full of people. They're not gone, really. They're the environment. It ate them. Lisbeth is as much the woman on the bed as she is the lamp she never woke up to turn off. The kennel master and his dogs are as much the disfigured bodies in the cages as they are the cages themselves. The flares littering the ground, the harpoon stabbed in the wall. The saboteur never gets a name or concrete identity because they aren't really a person. They're just residue where a person was. A ruined key, a boarded up door, a planted bomb. Everything you come across is just residue where people used to be. I think that's the scariest way Black Snow could have ended. Matsuda isn't killed by the mold, the monster he could at least run from. He's killed by the monster that's all around him, the station. And at the same time it kills him, it assimilates him. He becomes a roll of body cam footage for someone else to find. He becomes just another layer of bait for the trap. He's part of the monster now. Those are my thoughts about Black Snow. I think it's a really interesting mod, especially for its time. And it definitely leaves a lot up in the air. If you have an alternate idea reading, or you found something I missed, feel free to share it. For what it's worth, after playing, I decompiled the map using the Valve map editor Hammer, and there's a ton of cut content in it, including an alternate painting that was supposed to replace Night's Dream at some point, a run-in with another corpse from Matsuda's team, and a message for Junaid from Clarice written after the outbreak. There might still be some other secrets left to find. If you'd like to play the mod for yourself, it's linked in the description along with some resources to make it compatible with modern Steam. I recommend it. Thanks for watching.